warm welcome to this special broadcast. The 63rd SIAM convention kicked off in New Delhi with all top automotive CEOs in attendance. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari made a big headline here when he said that he would write to the Finance Minister to consider an additional 10% GST on diesel vehicles. He urged the industry to quickly phase out diesel vehicles or face the consequences of high taxation. Listen in to what he said.
G20 में हमने ग्लोबल अलायंस में बायोफ्यूल ग्लोबल अलायंस का जो हमने करार उसकी स्वाक्षरी की है वो अपने आप में एक हिस्टोरिकल है और पोल्यूशन ये बहुत गंभीर समस्या है और पोल्यूशन के कारण हमारे स्वास्थ्य के ऊपर भी बहुत विपरीत परिणाम हो रहा है। आज शाम को 5:30 बजे वित्त मंत्री मेरे घर पर एक मीटिंग के लिए आने वाली है और मैं उनको रिक्वेस्ट करने वाला हूं कि आने वाले समय में डीजल से जो भी इंजन चलाते हैं उसके ऊपर एडिशनल 10% जीएसटी लगाओ ताकि जल्दी इसका ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन होगा, नहीं तो लोग जल्दी सुनने के मूड में नहीं है। आप डीजल का प्रोडक्शन कम करिए और इसलिए मैं नहीं तो कम नहीं होगा तो टैक्स बढ़ाना पड़ेगा। तो मैं आपसे अनुरोध करूंगा कि ये एक अच्छा साइन है। डीजल बहुत ही हजार्डस फ्यूल है, हम बहुत बड़े प्रमाण पे इंपोर्ट भी करते हैं, तो डीजल को बाय कैसा भी करके आप बाय करिए। मैं आपको ये बहुत नम्रतापूर्वक रिक्वेस्ट से करूंगा, नहीं तो BS6 जैसा डीजल का भी हाल ऐसा ही होगा कि बस आप करते रहिए, हम इतना टैक्स बढ़ा देंगे कि आपको बेचना मुश्किल हो जाएगा। तो ये डीजल व्हीकल को आप ही सुमोटो इनिशिएटिव लेकर आप कर भी रहे हैं, इसीलिए 18% पे आया। तो धीरे धीरे ये हमारे लिए बहुत अच्छा प्रोग्राम होगा।
Soon after making that statement before industry leaders here at the SIAM convention, the minister clarified on Twitter that there was no such proposal under active consideration within the government. But this soon became a talking point within the industry. We spoke to Shenu Agarwal, the managing director of Ashok Leyland, about this and also spoke to him about growth plans and the launch of more alternate fuel vehicles.
I think it is a nice provocation that the minister made because of the huge gathering here. But overall, we think that the current government is very, very supportive of the efforts to move to cleaner mobility. And I think the industry is also taking those signals. And especially Ashok Leyland has been working on this for last 1 decade. And in the recent past, we have demonstrated a lot of progress in the area of alternative fuels. Recently, we launched our light commercial vehicles, which is 100% electric. In the past, we have done several forays into ethanol, methanol fuels, in partnership with various people. Also into hydrogen, we have a very mature technology. I think what the minister said was more of a provocation, more of a message that I think the efforts have to be enhanced in this direction, and the country needs that. So I don't think, I don't think minister was serious really about it, but it was more of a provocation.
But like, though you say that he probably said it in jest, he was not serious, but a provocation. But this is already a highly taxed industry, and this is what SIAM always says: we're already highly taxed. We need some concessions. So, do you think any additional taxation would make it more difficult to operate in certain segments?
See, I think instead of talking about the tax on diesel or petrol, I think we should talk more about the incentives that the government can provide on alternative fuels. I think that is what is going to really enhance the pace of adoption of these fuels. You know, Minister was right in saying that the technology is available, and the technology is available in India also. Of course, it needs to be matured a little bit more to get to mass scale. But other thing is also developing the ecosystem where the government as well as the private sector have to cooperate, to get that ecosystem ready, whether it is the electric charging stations or the hydrogen fuel pumps or things of that sort. I think that is where the most of the effort and the focus has to be. So, my personal argument would be, let us focus more on providing the right incentives, the right ecosystem to develop alternative fuels. And I think once we do that, once we accelerate that, I think we will see that reality happening very, very fast.
What is the current percentage of diesel sales in your entire portfolio? And if you were speak about the industry altogether, what would be the percentage of diesel vehicles on Indian roads and the percentage of sale of diesel vehicles, especially in commercial vehicle segment?
See, commercial vehicles, diesel is very predominant right now because of the fact that we are very, very early or nascent stages of alternate fuels right now. It is still largely diesel. I think what has become popular other than diesel is CNG right now, which is, I think, about which is significant, but still under 10% of the total industry, right? I think although the diesel is predominant right now, I think in times to come you will see a lot of movement happening into electric, into ethanol, even into hydrogen space.
Vinod Agarwal, the president of Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers, also said that any more taxation would not be good news for the auto industry. And instead, the government should spend more time in implementing an ecosystem for electric vehicles and alternate fuel vehicles in the country. He also said that the industry body was engaging with the government for a FAME 3 scheme and also reducing the regulatory burden for the auto industry. Well, a lot of buzz over Minister Gadkari's statement that he will raise taxes. He will request the Finance Minister to put an additional 10% GST on diesel vehicles if the industry does not phase them out very quickly. But then he has also clarified that there is no proposal at this stage. Let me get a reaction on this from Mr. Vinod Agarwal, the MD of VECV, also the president of SIAM. Sir, how do you see this statement coming? This is already a very highly taxed industry, and this is something that SIAM always keeps taking up with the government, but an additional 10% GST being proposed by Nitin Gadkari.
I think the Honorable Minister has already clarified, but I would make out of it is that it was more of a push towards sustainability. So he was making out a case that the industry should do more work on sustainability. They should prefer more and more alternate fuels which are more sustainable, and they should move towards that, and they should discourage diesel. I think it was more from that, basically that point of view. It was not a, I think, fiscal point.
But any additional taxation, how will that impact the auto industry, sir?
I think auto industry is already very, very heavily taxed. So definitely it will not be good for the auto industry if there is any additional tax.
Okay, and when it comes to diesel, the commercial vehicles are predominantly diesel at the moment. When we talk about phasing out diesel completely from commercial vehicles, what is the kind of timeline that you need?
Look, the entire industry is already seized of this, that we have to move towards electric vehicles, or we have to move on the alternate fuels. Like, for example, for the long haul trucks, we are looking at moving towards LNG fuel, LNG gas-based fuel. Now, if you have to move towards LNG, you need a lot of infrastructure. Like, we can come out with the LNG engines very fast. LNG engine and CNG engine, there will not be much difference. The difference is only in the storage of gas. Now, till the time you have those infrastructures, you can't see any growth happening in the LNG fuel vehicles. Right. Now I think there is some proposal going on that there will be some LNG corridors. So we welcome that, and if there are LNG corridors and if the fuel stations are set up there, I think industry will be more than ready to move towards LNG.
But can diesel be phased out of commercial vehicles completely? Tractors, for that matter.
No, it will gradually keep on changing. So I will not say that you will be able to phase out any fuel like that. Definitely there is a case for it to come down, but it will take time.
We caught up with Shailesh Chandra, the Managing Director of Tata Motors Passenger Vehicles and Electric Vehicle Mobility. He expressed confidence and optimism about the festive season and overall outlook for FY24. Listen in. What does the demand really look like right now? We spoke to you a few months back and you had said that the huge jump in demand that you had seen after COVID, that is getting rationalized now. Are we going to see a drop in demand going forward, or will the demand momentum continue currently?
So see, I had definitely mentioned that there was a high base that we settled at in the last year. From a 3.1 million industry, we jumped to nearly 3.8, 3.9. And that's a very high base. A 25% growth in auto industry is not sustainable. Generally, the average CAGR growth rate in good times is also 7 to 8%. So it was quite natural that this year there will be some moderation on a high base effect of last year. Right. Good thing is that high base and the level of demand sustains. And 4 million industry is a very strong industry, I must say, and we are already approaching the first half of the financial year, and industry will easily cross 2 million. So we are already halfway of the 4 million forecast that we have been talking about. So I think it's been strong now. Definitely, there are very popular models, new launches, which are in greater demand, I would say. There's one section which is with surplus supply versus the demand. So there is some moderation in certain segments, and therefore you will see a bit of push and pull sales happening, pull for all the models which are new in demand. I talked about some of the products in my portfolio, but there is a part which is also in good supply, and there the focus would be that in the festive season we really utilize the high demand period to really make the advantage of the high supply that you have on one side and the models which are in high demand.
Would also like to ask you about Minister Gadkari's statement. He was very clear that if you don't reduce or phase out diesel engines, then we will be forced to put high taxes. How do you react to that statement? Even though the minister has clarified there is no proposal at this stage, but do you think this is a very strong nudge from the government to start phasing out diesel?
See, I'm seeing out of the larger message. His larger message is that we have to move towards zero emission technology, right? And zero emission technology cannot be transitioned overnight. So there will always be a phase, which is this decade, I would say, which will be a mix of multiple powertrain. Things are, certain powertrains would phase out, certain things will go a very steep ramp up. The end state has to be zero emission technology, which is an electric vehicle. I think his focus is that start transitioning fast towards electrification, and that's the message. Of course, we have been seeing already that there is a consistent decline in multiple powertrains. You now CNG and diesel, CNG and electric is picking up, whereas diesel has been progressively going down. With every emission norm, you will see a natural decline of diesel. But the main focus, I think, from his perspective was not a particular powertrain. It's just an illustration. It was more about urging the industry to move faster towards zero emission technology.
On that note, we take a short break, but don't go anywhere. When we return, we'll get you conversations with Girish Fogg, head of the commercial vehicle segment in Tata Motors, and Vijay Nakra, the president of the automotive division in the Mahindra Group. Welcome back. You're watching our special broadcast from the annual meeting of the Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers. Here we caught up with Girish Fogg, the Executive Director of Tata Motors Commercial Vehicles, and spoke to him about the company's plans to phase out diesel vehicles and launch more alternate fuel vehicles in the future.
If you look at the current year for commercial vehicle overall industry, it has remained almost flat, so it's only 1% growth YTD. But if you look at various sub-segments, the heavy commercial vehicle, which is 28 ton and above, has grown the maximum. It's a healthy double-digit growth. We've also seen the buses and vans segment, which was impacted the maximum during COVID, has also grown pretty well. In fact, it has shown the highest growth. The intermediate light medium commercial vehicles, as we say 7 ton to 16 ton, has actually remained flat. And even small commercial vehicles has remained flat. Now, this is also on the back of very heavy volumes that they had during the last year, and there is some capacity, overcapacity and underutilization in the intermediate light. Therefore, we believe that towards the end of this year, the heavy commercial vehicles should do well, should have double-digit growth. Buses and van also should have double-digit growth. Intermediate light and also small may see smaller single-digit growth or may remain flat.
And as far as the economic indicators go on the ground, how do you see them contributing to the growth of the commercial vehicle sector?
So I think, first of all, overall GDP is doing pretty well. Government's investment in infrastructure continues to do well. Consumption is also doing well. And therefore, all this put together, we see a good impact, positive impact, on the heavy commercial vehicles. People mobility has once again got back to pre-COVID levels, and that is therefore helping the buses and vans category. Last mile distribution is also on a high, but as I said, there was a bit of lower capacity utilization there, so it will catch up, and I think even this segment would then start growing. So overall, we see a good year for commercial vehicles. Of course, it won't mirror the kind of growths that we have seen for last 2 years because it was on a very, very low base, which happened during the COVID years. But overall, I think the volumes will be at a healthy level.
Right. Any plans to install more capacity around the country anywhere?
So capacity at an overall level, no. Again, it has to be nuanced. But as the percentage of electric vehicles starts increasing in our portfolio, we are customizing and changing our facilities to make them amenable and capable to produce electric vehicles. So I think this is the change that we are doing at different locations. We have plants at 5 locations, and that's the change that we are doing.
In terms of capex, give us a sense of how much of a capex are you allocating towards electric vehicles and alternate fuel vehicles?
So over the years, our capex allocation to alternate fuels has been increasing, and it's almost now 30%, right? And I believe that other regulations that we are working on are behind us. This percentage will go on increasing.
With record high SUV sales in the month of August, the Mahindra Group is hoping for the sales momentum to continue in the coming months. So how does the festive season look for the Mahindra Automotive Division? Well, we spoke to the president of the Auto Division in the Mahindra Group, Vijay Nakra. Listen in.
I think a strong entry from last couple of months. Every month the number has been higher than the previous number. Last month was 37,000 plus, very strong numbers. As we get into September, the numbers continue to look strong. Couple of reasons. One, the demand continues to be strong across the portfolio. Whether we talk about Scorpio as a family, Scorpio N, Scorpio Classic, you talk about XUV 700, Thar, the number of bookings continue to be extremely strong. We've month on month, the numbers that we add continue to be similar. The cancellation rates continue to be low, which is in the region of 6 to 8%. The fresh bookings that we add continue to be in the range of 48 to 50,000. So as we get into the festive season, the booking pipeline is strong. That's one. Number two, on the supply side, I think over the last 6 months, thereabouts, every month, we've been able to manage the supply chain better. So as we get into festive seasons, August has been a month where we've been able to demonstrate a very strong supply chain feeding into production. And the third one is the capacity of 39,000 is already available. So I think with all these 3 factors playing out, we believe that the festive season should be a strong one for us.
Right. And now in terms of waiting times, some of your flagship models like the Thar had very long waiting times, sometimes almost 12 to 18 months in some cases. To what extent have you been able to reduce that?
Actually, I'm going to answer this question with a lot of humility that, we are extremely grateful to our customers for, the love for our brands, that the booking continues to remain very strong and higher than what we can currently still produce. So, the waiting period on these brands that we spoke about have not reduced in the recent past. In fact, if anything, in some of them, it's gone up a little bit, has gone up further. We did put out saying that as we will get to Q4 of this financial year, we will be increasing capacity to 10,000 each for Scorpio and for 700. I think as we will move into that, there will be a respite when it comes to the waiting period.
Right. I'd like to ask you about future product launches. Are there any more product launches that you have within this fiscal?
I wouldn't answer that in terms of this fiscal, but the way I would put it to say is that we put out saying 2024 calendar year. We have 2 launches in store. One is a mid-cycle enhancement, which means a major change to the XUV 300, and the second one is the big one, which is the 5-door Thar. So both of these are in store, and December 2024 is when we will come out with our first born electric vehicle, December 2024. So I think the calendar year will see these launches as we move into the year.
That's all we could pack in on this special episode with Lakshman, Danish, Akhilesh and me. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.